Good evening from Daytona Beach, Florida, Daytona International Raceway. I'm Heyward Wagner, sitting with me, Jeff Lepper, recapping Day 2 action here at the SCCA Runoffs presented by Garmin VIRB. Jeff, a very different day today, hot during the middle of the day, a big breeze in the afternoon, a lot of action on the track. Let's talk a little bit about our highlights from today. We got to spend some time today at what I think is one of the coolest motorsports events in the world. Talk a little bit about what you experienced today here.
Well, when I got a chance, my girlfriend, I got to say hi, Melissa Smith. She's photographing a lot of the cars out here this weekend, so I got to go be her assistant today. Got to go out to the bus stop and watch guys going through the bus stop and NASCAR Turn 4. And I tell you what, to watch those GT1 cars and some of the FA cars go through Turn 4, NASCAR 4, sparks were flying on the FA cars, and to see Michael Lewis once again in that Jaguar GT1 car through Turn number 4, tucked on that yellow line through the embankment, I can understand how exciting it is to see 43 redneck race cars around this place bouncing over the bumps here, sparks flying at night. It's got to be pretty cool.
I spent some time at the bus stop as well, and you know, I was out there for the T1 American Sedan session, watching Andy McDermott go through that section, watching Heinrichs go through that section. But it seemed to me, and I actually just spoke with him a few minutes ago, Andrew Aquilante has found something on this track that I don't know that many of those 43 rednecks or anybody that's run the Daytona 24-hour has. He is just absolutely hauling the mail in that Mustang.
Well, you see him. I saw him. I got a pleasure to announce Phoenix Performance this year in Pro World Challenge, and Andrew's car was always set up like that. It's lifting that front tire up there. It seems to be really soft. Plants are in, and he jerks it back and forth, side to side, side to side. And it's amazing to see, and it probably was something special watching him through the bus stop.
And, you know, having just come from SCCA Solo Nationals, where you're watching autocross for 4 days and these radical direction changes, his attitude in the car is exactly the same as that. I was talking to him in impound, and I asked him what his strategy was for the bus stop, and he just kind of shrugged and said, go fast. So I mean, he's either not showing his cards, or he's just one of those guys that can sling things through. The other class that I got to really watch a lot of today was Formula F. I got to watch that from Turn 1. And a lot of these guys experimented today with the narrow rear tires and coming down the front straightaway, clocking 100, 150 miles an hour, and then getting into Turn 1 with those skinny rear tires. It was Saturday night dirt trike action all the way through Turn 1 for that entire session.
Yeah, I saw some of that, some guys experimenting even in the STL class. My dad's racing in that class. I got a chance to watch that session from Turn 1, watching them come down with Melissa doing photos, seeing the cars coming in. And a lot of guys were running a 225 front tire to a 205 rear, just trying to get more rotation on the infield, which is what Heinrichs, our guest yesterday, mentioned. You know, set the car up for the infield here, don't really worry about the oval, which is, you wouldn't think that would be the case here. You really want the oval set up, but it affects you in the infield. And a lot of guys were a lot quicker on the infield, suffered a little bit in the oval, but had an overall faster time. And that's what really matters, to see those guys dirt tracking, like you said, through Turn number 1, all over the ABS in the rear down there in Turn number 3 in the International Horseshoe. It was it's going to make some exciting times come race time.
Now, speaking of race time, let's talk a little bit about some results, some things that happened today. We did have some movers. You've got a couple of sheets there. GT2 and B-Spec were two of the classes where we saw some things shake up today.
Yeah, it really did. You know, Jordan Bupp goes from Fort Lauderdale, Florida, nearby, and his Ford Mustang in GT2 goes up to the top of the charts, a 154.1. That is hauling the mail in GT2. Some other notables there, Jonathan Start, who was second yesterday, goes back to third with his time, because it is 4 days of qualifying, your best time out of 4 days. Where's Eric Prill? Eric Prill, we need to change that, man. Come on. I think it should be your best time over all 4 days combined is what it needs to be.
Aggregate score. Aggregate score.
You get one throw out and then your best 3 combined type deal. Your average of all 3 is the way it should be. Make everybody run every session, especially if it rains or whatever. It makes you, you know, there's guys that have...
I don't see Eric, but Deanna's walking.
Yeah.
Deanna, is that okay with you next year for qualifying? Can we do the combination of your 3 best days? Is that, you good with that? All right, it's done.
That's what I think. Add them all up.
Done.
Lowest time that wins.
D. Flanagan at SCCA.com. If you like it, just tell her how much you like it.
There's people shaking their heads, there's people moving their hands, there's some people going, yeah,
If you don't like it, ePrill at SCCA.com.
Exactly.
That's the email address to go to.
Yeah, let's do a Twitter vote. Do your
Twitter,
hashtag.
Yeah, a Twitter hashtag war.
Yeah, that'd be good. But yeah, GT2 was great. B-Spec, John Heinrichs, we talked to the gentleman there yesterday, 8-time national champ, was on the pole, and now it's Darren Seltzer. So Darren was able to eclipse that. And I got to see those 2 Honda Fits of Chen Ho. They were nose to tail that entire time.
I've spoken with Darren a couple of times this week. You know, Darren as far as natural talent, there may not be anybody here that's bringing more than he is. This is a guy who, and again, I keep going back to Solo Nationals. Last 2 years at Solo Nationals, he's indexed as the #1 driver in the event. Those were his first 2 years at Solo Nationals. Ran in a class that's typically decided within a second. He won it by 3 seconds 2 years in a row. Has a huge karting background, decides to get into the club race side, comes into B-Spec and teams up with Chaiho. They've spent their whole year. Is that John Huntersy by any chance? Or?
No, but Eric Pearl's calling me right now, so that was great. Yeah.
They've
I gave him crap about his phone yesterday, so he decided to call me today.
They've spent their entire year practicing for this. They're dialed into the draft here.
Yeah, they really were, and they were nose to tail. They would swap back and forth. But watching those guys, when I was watching Heinersee come through the bus stop, he's modulating the throttle on, off, on and off, on and off. Chi and Darren were just flat out the whole way. I said, "Do you guys brake?" He goes, "We brake and downshift, but you brake just enough to slow down to downshift. You're not braking to slow the car down. You're just braking to slow the engine down enough that you can get it into 4th gear."
Now, the fit guys will tell you that the reason that Heinersee is modulating the throttle is because all the horsepower that Sonic makes. So we're just fueling that fire in B-Spec.
Yeah, let's get it going. Come on, the controversy. That's another hashtag thing. Twitter your favorite B-Spec car. Hashtag Sonic, hashtag fit.
I'm going with the Kia. I like the Kia. It's got good lines.
There's no Kia here this
There is not a Kia here. You're correct.
Kyle Keenan, man, where are you, buddy? Come on, I know you're watching. Jeez, you're past national champion. You can't even show up here. Jeez.
Another class where we saw him move yesterday out front was Joe Huffaker in GTL today. Jim Dentisi taking that top spot in the CRX. We've seen a lot of guys from the Detroit, from the Milwaukee, Wisconsin area come down here and really show strong results in the first 2 days.
Yeah, they really have, and it's kind of weird to see that. I mean, the tracks they race up there, though, are traditionally the oval tracks when they run. They can come to St. Louis, they can run there, they can run Kansas, you can run here, you run Michigan Speedway. So I think they have a good setup on what they need to do with their cars, and that's really going to show here at Daytona.
Now, one other I want to mention, we talked about Spec Racer Ford Generation 3 yesterday. We didn't actually speak about the drivers in that class. Cliff White yesterday stretching over a second, just barely over a second margin in Spec Racer Ford. Also is sitting in 3rd spot in Spec Racer Ford Generation 3. You know, these cars, I talked a lot today to some drivers in this group. That Generation 3 car, 70 pounds lighter on the rear axle, 25 more horsepower. It's got to be a pretty good challenge for him to drive what's theoretically the same chassis but radically different handling cars.
I could not imagine what that must be like. It's like going into a front-wheel drive car and then stepping into a rear-wheel drive car the very next day to see that. And to know that I watched, was we over there at the MCE Racing Motorsports dyno getting a car dynoed and watching the Spec Racer Fords come through nose to tail, and those cars don't line up. The bumpers don't line up. Fiberglass front ends. And I'm walking through the impound area early or after their session, and the front noses of all the cars got tire rub marks on the left and the right side.
It's not just tire rub. They're also
goes right up underneath the.
They're burning holes in the noses of the car with the exhaust because they run this draft all over the country, but there's nowhere else they hold it for as long as here. That exhaust is burning through the fiberglass on the nose of the cars.
I was really amazed. I expect to see some little aluminum panels now that we're going to see in front of these Spec Racer Fords because they're going to have that for the draft.
Well, what we're going to do next, Jeff, after we've done a little recap, we're going to bring up a couple of guests to talk, and it is Tuesday night here in Daytona. Tuesday night is, of course,
Taco Tuesday.
No, close.
Ladies' night.
Ladies' night.
That's right. Ladies' night.
And we've got Meg Sauce and Laura Hayes that are going to join us this evening. Both of which are deep in their own Twitter battle at the moment. But we want to bring up a couple of folks to talk about being at the Runoffs, being here at Daytona. We're going to start with Meg. We'll bring Laura up in just a moment. Meg making the run up here.
Making the way up. She's running a different type of oval. We'll hear about that a little later too.
So Meg, you're running Meg Sauce out of Houston, Texas area. Is that Dallas, Texas area?
Dallas, Texas, yes.
And running Formula F, and a bit of a challenge getting to the Runoffs this year. Tell us a little bit about what your last 60 days or so has been like.
Well, we went to Kansas to try to get our last majors race of the season done, and we actually we blew the motor in testing on Friday. We had to stay the rest of the weekend for commitments we had already made. We drove home Sunday and woke up Monday. The car, trailer, and our truck were gone. Everything was stolen out of the front parking lot of our shop.
So when we're saying that the car, the truck, the trailer, everything's gone, are we talking driver's suit, helmet, shoes, the whole shooting match?
I luckily had that with me at the time, but our golf cart, all spare parts, we actually had just gotten an entire box full of spares. Thursday when we left that was still unopened in that trailer, and all of our tools, all our spare wheels, tires, everything that we needed to run was gone.
And then you guys did the only thing that you knew how to do, which was?
We actually took to Facebook first and posted that the car was missing, and we got the truck back fairly quickly, and then about 2 months later, and 2 weeks ago, we got the car back, but we had already gone out and purchased another DB6 and got ready to come to the runoffs.
That is amazing. What was the time frame on this? Exactly how many days ago was it from time that you needed to leave to be here?
It was the Monday after Kansas, so it was about 3 months ago, so 90 days. And then about 2 weeks ago is when they called and said, hey, I think we've got your stolen car. I think it's been out in this field. I traded my four-wheeler for it.
So you're in a car that, how much seat time do you have in the new car?
I honestly only did 2 20-minute sessions before we came to Daytona, and I started testing Saturday. I've run every session since Saturday, so probably about 7 sessions and maybe 8 after today.
And sitting right now 12th in Formula F.
I think we were actually 15th or 16th. I'm not, if I
12th quickest today, correct. Was that right?
Yes.
I heard the 12 number somewhere.
I think so, yes.
Talk about that challenge. How hard is it to get comfortable in this car?
It's been a big challenge. The biggest thing to overcome right now has been Ford versus Kent. Ford versus Honda, excuse me. The biggest thing is that the Honda motor reacts totally different than the Kent motor ever did. You're going from a carbureted motor that's going to bog whenever you don't carry enough momentum in to a fuel-injected motor that's going to overcome that bog any day. And you're having to adjust not only your previous knowledge of what something's supposed to feel like, sound like, what it does completely, and basically you're having to wipe that clean and start fresh. It's been a very big challenge, but I think we've overcome that so far very well.
So you run the oval here. How do you like running this oval? Have you been to Daytona before, or is this first time?
First time.
So you run the oval with the road course here, but the coolest thing that I heard about you is you run a different type of oval in the off time when you're not racing. Tell us about that.
I actually play roller derby. I play flat track women's roller derby out of Dallas, Texas.
Is there a team you're part of then? What is it called? Because you always got the greatest names for roller derby.
I am on the Dallas Derby Devils. The team that I actually skate for is the High Seas Hotties. We're a pirate-themed team.
Arr!
There you go, yeah. I bet she's probably never heard that before, yeah.
At first time.
Never.
So this, I mean, there's a lot of strategy in roller derby, obviously. Formula F, there's got to be some strategy there. Do you ever, is there any relation whatsoever at all? I mean, do you any mentality things on that, or is this nothing? You feel like pushing somebody out of the way in Formula F like you do in roller derby, or no?
Sometimes, yes.
Sometimes, yeah.
I think, truthfully, I started playing roller derby, and it made me much more competitive on the track. I had been out of the car for 9 months, and in that 9 months, I played roller derby, and I came back, and we set second fastest race lap, and we ran up at the front of the pack the first race we were back, and it was almost like I was a completely different driver. My competitive drive had gone easily tenfold from what it was before.
And imagine being in a competition where you have a 5-point harness and a roll cage and all those things, you might get just a teeny tiny bit more confidence than when it's elbow pads and roller skates.
Yes.
So this is your second runoff. You did a Road America runoffs. Talk about coming to Daytona. What does this feel like for you, being out of the Texas area? Texas obviously is a part of the country that has a big affection for that 43-car redneck field that Jeff was talking about. How does it feel to come to a racetrack like this to compete for a championship?
It feels like a dream come true. I think every driver fantasizes about different tracks, and I think that Daytona is always in that list of tracks simply because of the history behind it. It doesn't, to me at first, it didn't really click, oh, I'm going to go 145 or 150 mile an hour in a draft. It clicked that, wow, think of the people that I'm going to be. I'm in a group of people that now has raced Daytona. It doesn't matter what I'm in, I've raced Daytona. And
when you're out in a qualifying session and you come up onto the high bank and you see the word Daytona, do you notice that? Do you think about it? Are you aware of it in the car? Or is this something that you're conscious of when you're wearing the helmet?
Not really, to be truthful. I'm focusing on what's behind me and what's in front of me. I'm not considering the fact of where I'm at. I just know I'm here and I made it. And for me, that's the biggest thing, is we made it, and I didn't think that we would.
Especially after having their car stolen. Have you been up to the top of the bank yet and
yes.
looked down on your car? Yeah, okay, good. Just want to make sure, because that's
a little
something
scary
to do.
looking.
A little scary looking? So have you done banked roller derby or just flat track?
Just flat track.
Just flat track. There is a difference. I've seen the bank stuff.
I'm not that brave.
So, not that brave?
No.
But you're brave here, so you're running Daytona.
Yes.
What's next for you now? What is there an ultimate goal for you on where you want to go or what you want to do? Or was this it?
Honestly, I wanted to make it to the runoffs, and I wanted to be competitive. And right now, we are definitely in a competitive position. I want to keep improving, but I also want to continue growing as a driver. I'm just now coming into this car, into this group that I'm in, so we haven't even come close to reaching our goal. And our goal is ultimately to continue to grow and to get faster and to be one of the top drivers wherever we can go.
That's awesome. That's pretty cool. Well, great. Well, you know, thank you so much for coming. We really appreciate it, and definitely good luck. When do you race? Your race is Saturday?
Sunday, 1 p.m.
Sunday at 1 p.m. So
the main event right after lunch on Monday, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Good luck to you. We'll be watching. Everybody at home will have the opportunity to watch you. Are you calling Formula F this year?
Formula F, yes. So SCCA.com. Can't wait for it, man.
Tune in, and we will hear the Jeff Lepper call of Formula F. Thank you so much for taking time to sit down and speak with us.
Anytime. Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's going to be exciting to watch Formula F. I mean, I think it's still that Ford versus Honda war. Some of the guys, Honda's come in, done a great job. You know, I mean, the class was called Formula Ford. They had to change it to Formula F, obviously, with this new Honda engines.
Formula Fit.
Formula Fit
is the other
motor,
option.
1.5 motor.
There you go.
And it's a kit they sell, and I think it's just the next step for the evolution of it. I think that really has broadened the class more. It's brought in the younger generation, such as her, that's able to come in and say, this is cool, this is something that's neat,
it's
something
so
different.
Huge to be able to have a turnkey formula car for all intents and purposes. I mean, we just have Laura Hayes sitting down beside us. I don't think Laura would describe her Formula V as a turnkey car, and the Formula F, the Fit package, gives that opportunity for, you have an alternator on board, you have actual real radiator cooling, you can let this car idle and take that headache away and really focus on the driving and the setup of the car. So,
and then we go to one of the other Formula cars, Formula V, where you just sort of invent everything as you go type deal, or start with a plan. But welcome. Nice to see you here. And the star of, obviously, we need to get a stack of sports car magazines to have you autograph those for us right on the cover. So, Laura,
how does it feel to be an SCCA cover girl? So let's start there.
It's pretty awesome, I have to say. I think it's really cool for the whole V community. Everybody's been coming up to me over the weekend and just telling me how awesome the story was and the pictures, and it's not often that we get to see a V on the front of sports car magazines, so everybody in the community is just super excited about that.
I was able to sit in on a lot of the meetings between SCCA and Racer and talking about kind of the reinvention of sports car and going away from having just a race car on the cover every month and having the personalities of the club and the people that really make the club what it is. And if you look back on the last 8-9 months, we've got Joe Huffaker, we've got Bob Endicott, we've got really a group of people that have Kenton. What's Kenton's last name? Kenton Cook. People who are really establishing themselves in the sport. You're on that list now. You're one of those people that is putting yourself out there as this is what SCCA is. What has that experience been like? You mentioned in the V community, but opening that mailbox and seeing your face on the sports car. What went through your head when that happened?
Well, I think I was the very last person to finally get the magazine, because everybody's texting me and sending me pictures and like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you just came out of my mailbox, and we're waiting and it was finally here, and that was just a really cool feeling, especially with it just being my second year running SCCA and to be representing the V community after a pretty good year. That's pretty cool.
And definitely not your second year in motorsports, though. A very established resume. Talk a little bit about your background coming into SCCA.
Yeah, I started off back in the day quarter midgets, and then we went go-kart racing, and then we were at the point where my family and I needed to make the decision if we wanted to go open wheel, which was the way I wanted to go, but financially we decided to go circle track racing. So then NASCAR kind of became my goal, and we ran stock cars for a long time, and it was always my dream to run the oval here, and to be here at the Runoffs running the road course is pretty cool. I'm very excited to be here.
Now tell us about your car. Is that a car that you guys have built? Is it a builder chassis that you run now, or?
It's a used car that we bought from Dan Voss, and it's a Protoform P2, 1999 year, so it's a little bit old, but it still scoots along pretty good.
Now, is that something that you work on yourself? Are you learning about it? And
Absolutely learning about it, but I do have a whole lot of help. Donnie Isley, who's been running Formula Vs for the past 30 or so years, he's super competitive, and he's been kind of my crew chief over the last couple of years and teaching me the ropes.
Now, how do you like this place? You said it's Daytona. This is where your ultimate goal was to be, but now you're here running that V.
Oh, yeah. It would be fun in a car that had some horsepower, because right now I think I need to bring a book along with me, you know, being on the oval. But it's all relative, and the draft is really cool, and I'm still kind of getting the hang of that. Getting the hang of the draft, something that I've never really had to deal with before.
I got my introduction to you at the Summer Speed Fest last year at Barber, and was really impressed with a V driver that I had never heard of, running in extremely close proximity to a number of other drivers. It was obvious that you were very comfortable in that wheel-to-wheel racing environment. I learned more about your history later. It obviously made sense then, but the experience in karting, the experience in quarter midgets, coming here where the draft is everything, and you have to run so close in qualifying even. What is your comfort level? What has that background done for you to be able to come into an event like this and know that you can be in those battles and be comfortable?
Yeah, just coming from the go-karting, just learning that respect for that close wheel-to-wheel racing has certainly helped out coming up into the V's, because you have to have some serious respect for each other, because especially at these speeds that we're going, if you get a little bit too close, it's not going to be good. But I feel pretty comfortable out there as it is. Still learning the draft, though, like I said.
So I asked last, is there an ultimate goal for you? I mean, what's next for you after this? Is you gonna stay with the V's for a little while? You think of getting a Formula F car maybe, or a Continental?
I'd love to move up to the Formula F. A couple of weeks ago, I got to run Sam Lockwood's Formula Ford with the Honda, I guess. But the car was amazing. I mean, the first couple of laps, I got to the brakes and I was like, wait, the corner's still up there, you know. So getting used to the brakes versus the V's and the shifting, it was just amazing. It was a really cool car, and hopefully maybe we'll move up to that for next year, but it's just all comes about down to the dollar, you know. Now,
we talked a little bit about Meg's extracurricular activities. You've got a pretty cool job. What do you get to do during the day?
Yeah, during the day, I work for the BMW Performance Driving School in South Carolina. We're right across the street from the manufacturing plant where they produce all of the X cars for the world. So, yeah, in between races, I'm driving BMWs all day, so it's not a bad gig.
When you get into a Formula V after being in BMWs all week, are you just blown away with how light and nimble it is, or do you just wish you could strap one of those big M motors into the back of it?
I wish I could strap one of those V8s into that thing.
Oh, that's awesome. That's cool. Well, good luck in your races this weekend.
Yep, Saturday
as well, afternoon. Yep. So tune in to SCCA.com for the Formula V race. That's going to be exciting because you're in there, and then we also have Lisa Noble.
Yep.
She's running Formula V, so always running Formula V. So that's
what's the team strategy for the race? What do you and Donnie got?
Qualified 7th right now, I believe, right?
Yeah, 7th? Today we didn't really go as quick as we wanted to. The car's just not quite handling the way we want. Donnie had to change an engine overnight, so he I think got inside the top 10, so we're pretty close to each other. So if we can team up during the race, I think we could run up to the front.
Now, can you really feel a draft in the V's? I mean,
yeah.
You know it's that big of a difference with that.
Well, she can tell because the pages on her book stop fluttering.
Exactly.
That's the way you know.
No time to tweet from the car, you know. You got to do it there.
Well,
cool.
Best of luck to you, Laura.
We
will be rooting for you just as much as we do for everybody else in our totally unbiased coverage, but we'd love to talk to you in
exactly.
pit road at the end of the race.
All right, cool. Thanks, guys.
Cool. No problem. Thanks. That's exciting, man. I've never driven a V. I would, yeah. Hey, by the way, if you're ever bored, I'd love to drive a Formula V. That'd be for sure. That'd be fun. I don't know if I'd fit.
My dad had one when I was a kid, and it kept overheating. And their solution was to go to the hardware store and get a couple of mailboxes and use the mailboxes to cut holes in them to put more air in it. And it worked well enough that they just left them there. It was the mailbox V.
And that's what Formula V is. And most of those cars are home-built chassis, home-built everything on those cars. And there's been a few guys, like she's got a Voss chassis, so a few guys have started creating a class in the chassis of the car. But I like that home-built class. I like that, like the F500 class as well. It's just one of those, you build it yourself, you race it yourself, you know every single nut and bolt on that car. It's the way to go.
Yep, I was over looking at Steven Davis's car today, and his pedals were some kind of like it almost looked like chain link fence metal that had been kind of wadded together and put together, and you look at Steven's feet, you look at the pedals, they fit perfectly. But I mean, you would never go to any speed shop in the world and be able to buy Formula V pedals like that.
No, or any Formula V parts, I don't think
it's really a form of competitive blacksmithing if you think about it.
Yeah, I really think so. I think you find most of your parts there at Buggerama and find out what those guys do, and it's one of the exciting classes. I love Formula V. I think next to probably B-Spec and the touring car categories, Formula V's got to be my favorite.
Well, speaking of favorites, we had some folks today that put in some pretty good performances, and we talked about maybe pulling a couple out and talking about them. Who are your heroes to do? Who are a couple of guys that made a mark that impressed you?
T4, I got to think Philip Royal. he's editor of Sports Car Magazine. Not going to try to plug that at all, but there's a car that was a street car. When I saw it at Fontana this year, he had just got the roll cage put in it, drove it to the track from Racer Magazine headquarters there, drove it to the track, raced it, and then drove it back home. Obviously got it shipped out here and towed, and then he's sitting on the top of the times in T4. I think that's pretty awesome.
I watched Touring 4 qualifying from right inside the infield course. There's a really great grandstand that you can stand in and watch both the oval and the infield. And there was a visible difference in speed between Philip and everybody else in the class. You could really tell that through the kink, he was more committed. He trusted the car more, but the car was just moving better than everybody else was.
Yeah, I saw him through the bus stop this morning. We were over there shooting, and it was a sight to see. You see a front-wheel drive Honda Civic Si drift through both corners of the bus stop, and then he's top time. I'm like, oh, he looks a little slow through there. It's not going to be. And I don't think, honestly, to tell you the truth, I don't think that's going to be a race pace for him. I don't think he can maintain the tires and maintain the car that race pace, but it sure is exciting in qualifying.
And you had one other you wanted to mention.
I got to go with Jason Isley. There's a guy.
You are really working
car.
the sports car staff on this one, aren't you?
Can you believe this? I need to be on the cover. Laura Hayes got on the cover. Why don't we have like the personalities of the runoffs?
Heyward, there's
Wagner,
a really good reason why
Jeff
we shouldn't be on the cover. There's
right?
a very good reason why we should not be.
Face for radio, that's for sure. But no, he's got a brand new car, new Toyota Yaris, and it's cool to see. Like I said, that next evolution to come in. It's mostly bug-eye sprites and midgets and cars from the 60s, minis. Those cars are going to start running out. There's not going to be those parts anymore. So to bring that next generation of cars, the Hondas, my little Honda Fit that's not here, but the Toyota Yaris to come over. He had a big incident with his teammate driving the car at Willow Springs, so they got the car fixed again. He still made it here and sitting on the top of the pole with against all those little tiny cars. I think it's a good thing there.
And a lot of people think that this is just a wash, rinse, repeat for Jason. This is a totally different car than he had last year, Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca.
And a new motor too, and it's actually the motor makes less horsepower than his old motor, but he can rev it higher, so he did that for here, specifically for here. So to tell you the links that he's gone to in this production category, and he's been successful since he brought that car in, still looking for that first championship. He's done 5 national championships, best finished a second last year at Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca. Just needs that extra to get that win.
Well, my first of my heroes of the day is Yufeng Liu, out of Arcadia, California, driving in Formula Continental. This is a kid, you called the race last year in Formula Continental at Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca. Looked like he was a shoe-in for a podium, 15 years old. It just kind of all fell apart on him on the last lap, ended up 5th, which is a tremendous result for a rookie at the runoffs regardless. Brings the car all the way across the country, and right now a 155.4. It's about a 3/10 margin right now in Formula Continental, sitting on the pole at 16 years of age.
Yeah, you got another year of maturity, I hope, this time. Of course, threw it away when he ran wide in turn 6, got through the dirt, then ran wide again down in turn number 9 and lost 2 more positions, so really could not recover from that. And he did say he was a little, not over his head, but he was driving over his head, he said, in that. Now he's nice and stable and firm. I expect him just to really walk away in the FC. He had some damage to his front wing in that qualifying session, the first qualifying session, so that was where he picked up today a little quicker.
And then the other one that jumped out to me has got to be Jim Downing. Jim is such a fixture in the sport. Ran a 149.2 today. He has got about a 2.5 margin over the rest of Prototype 1. That's not the impressive part to me. We're talking about somebody who has a 4-digit SCCA number, 72 years of age, and he's getting clocked in 160, 170 miles an hour.
Oh, I thought he was 111. I didn't know he was only 72.
No, he's only 72.
Oh, I thought he was 111.
Well, you measure it in Downing years. It's a little bit different.
All right.
But just amazing to me that we have 2 of our classes here, P1 and Formula Continental. You're looking at a roughly 50-year age gap between the pole sitters in those 2 classes.
Yeah, that is cool, and that tells you the depth of SCCA and what it is. I mean, you can have a 15-year-old kid come in. We have them as low as 14 with waivers that can do autocrossing and some spec Miata stuff on the club level, regional levels. And then to Jim Downing at 72. We look back at, I asked my dad, I go, when are you going to quit racing? He goes, well, I'll never quit racing. I may quit driving, but I'm never going to quit racing. And I go, well, okay, when are you going to quit driving? Because I really want your cars and I want to come race. And he says, well, Paul Newman did it when he was 78. So he says 78's a good number. So Downing still got 4 more years on him.
So as we're wrapping things up today, we actually aren't wrapping things up today. We've got Spec Miata qualifying happening, kicking off in right at an hour. This is going to be the only opportunity for these guys to see the track at night. Obviously, Daytona has the facilities to do a night race. This isn't going to be a pitch black experience, but this is going to be a big challenge for those guys.
I think then there's a lot of grumbling in the Spec Miata pits right now. The older cars are really, this is what it goes down to, are complaining they have to have their lights up. And they're afraid that's going to penalize them in the draft versus having the newer cars, the 99 and newer, that have the lights on the front.
I don't want to fuel that fire, but I can tell you for a fact in my 90, when you're driving down the interstate at dusk and you flip the lights up, you feel like somebody hooked a trailer onto you all of a sudden. It is a real thing. And I guarantee, I remember last year in the T1 race, the Corvette ran the headlights for the last couple of laps, and then when he pulled out to try to make the final pass, he flipped the headlights down coming onto the front straightaway. I guarantee you won't see a single NA Miata with the headlights flipped up on the last lap coming out of the bus stop. They will all be shut down.
And this place is really light. I mean, the Musco lights I got here, I don't think you'll have to have the headlights on. I mean, maybe you flick them on in the infield if you can remember to do them, but I don't think you'll have to do it on the oval. But to see these guys, talking with Todd Lamb, your pole sitter from yesterday, said he thinks they're going to go about 0.8 of a second quicker because of the cooler temperatures at night. Now we have a nice tailwind coming out of turn number 4 down this front stretch there. It's going to make turn 1 very interesting, especially if you have 6 or 7, 8 guys in a row nose to tail that we've seen in Spec Miata.
And of course, if you are at home, if you're watching us from home, this race Friday night under the lights will be broadcast live. This may be the best setup for a runoffs race I've ever seen.
I can't imagine. I mean, I want to find a Spec Miata. I wish I was. Eric Pearl, you still around? I got another request. I need to run a different class and run a Miata because that's going to be fun. I just can't believe 57 Spec Miatas at night live at SCCA.com. And a little tip for you: I'm not calling that race, but how about Greg Creamer and Dorsey Schrader in the booth calling the Spec Miata race at night? That is awesome.
It will be something to behold.
It's going to be great to see Greg and Dorsey come back together to announce one last time. It's not one last time. I mean, not like they're on their deathbed or nothing, but
well, I mean,
they are getting old.
We'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
We'll see how it goes. We might have to put them out to pasture. I'm
they're
kidding,
old,
Greg.
too,
I'm
yeah.
kidding.
I'm not.
For folks tuning in at home, thank you very much for your time. Jeff, thanks for sitting down with us. We will be presenting the recap tomorrow evening. Tomorrow is Mazda night. We're going to try to get our provisional pole in Spec Miata to come sit down and speak with us. John Doonan from Mazda Motorsports. We're going to ask him to talk to us about the Mazda effect on the runoffs and SCCA in general. And we'll be back tomorrow evening to speak with you. Jeff, thank you very much.
No problem. This will be fun. Make sure you tune in, SCCA.com. Live timing, and then Friday, Saturday, Sunday, the live calls, live broadcast, all presented by Garmin VIRB. It's going to be exciting.